JPRB News. It is Monday, November 21. I am news reporter Ross and Sophia Lago with this breaking news. The Global South is one of the divisions existing in our world wherein it involves the developing countries of the world that are not as developed as the countries in the Global North. It represents the agrarian economies like in China, India, Latin America, and Africa, wherein the said nation encountered problems including corruption, poverty, violence, and more. Today, Nigeria is experiencing the common problems as it is included in the Global South line. Now, let's hear more information about Nigeria. Miss Bea?
Nigeria, a federal republic country with a presidential system that is located in Western Africa, that is known for being the most populous black nation on earth, with a population of 225 million people and an area with almost 4 times the size of the UK. Nigeria is a multinational country, the home of different tribes classified as Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo. And lastly, Nigeria has its own filming world. The Nollywood, which is the second biggest filming industry in the world, even bigger than the Hollywood. But even after having all of this, Nigeria remains a lower middle income country that will be on the news report of Ms. Labo.
Thank you, Ms. Bea. The largest industry which drive the country's economy and account for the bulk of its annual GDP are its petroleum, tourism, agriculture, and mining industry. The biggest industries in the country also employ a large number of country's workforce. With the agriculture industry alone, it employs about 30% of the country's total labor force. These industries are also responsible for the bulk of the country's exports. And Nigeria's socio-economic status is largely determined by its oil wealth. And Nigeria is actually the 12th largest producer of the oil in the whole world and 8th largest exporter of the oil. And oil accounts for about 70% of Nigeria's government revenue and 90% of it is export earnings. However, the oil industry is plagued by corruption and mismanagement, and the vast majority of Nigeria do not benefit from the country's oil wealth. In fact, Nigeria ranks 136 out of 190 countries on the 2017 Human Development Index, and about 60% of the population lives in poverty. Nigeria poverty rate is estimated at 60% of population, which is about 108 million people. With a high rate of population, it leads to the high and unemployed rate, which is about 24% of the population is unemployed. In addition, Nigeria has a large informal sector, which employs about 80% of the workforce. And the informal sector is not regulated and often does not provide adequate wage or benefits. That's all. Back to you, Ms. Bea.
Nigeria's socio-economic status is relatively low compared to other countries. However, there are so many factors that contribute to this. Nigeria is a lower middle income country with a GDP per capita of $1,600 in 2017. Nigeria's economy largely depends on oil, which account for over 70% of the country's export earning and 90% of the government's revenue. Nigeria is rich in natural resources. It has a wide array of mineral resources, which includes coal, gold, iron, and zinc. But despite the huge deposits of these natural resources, Nigeria's mining industry is still in infancy, as development has been hampered by corruptions, political instability, and conflict. And when it comes to education, at least 10.5 million of Nigerian children are out of school. This is the highest rate in the whole world. It is estimated that 35% of children in Nigeria that attend primary schools do not go on to secondary schools, not just because of financial problems, but also because of their safety. As Nigeria is known for terrorism, just like last year, 2021, There were 25 attacks of terrorism on schools where 1,440 children were abducted and 16 children were killed, which brought a lot of fears to parents to send their children to schools. Not only terrorism, but also the high level of inequality is also a big socio-economic issue in Nigeria, where the GINI, which measure the inequality, score 0.48 in Nigeria, which means that Nigeria is more unequal than the average countries. This is due to the fact that the 10% richest of the populations earn 28 times more than the 10% of the poorest. For socio-economic news, this is Bea Halok and Ross Anspialabo from JPRB News.
For Nigeria politics, Nigeria former President Olusegun Obasanjo said that nation's current degenerating situations is beyond party politics and requires all hands to be on deck. He also said that the country has lost direction in nation building, insisting that as long as we don't get it right in nation building, we cannot get anything right in this country. Mr. Obasanjo noted that the situation in Nigeria has become so precious that no individual can say he or she has a solution to the problems. That's the headline for Nigeria's situations beyond party politics.
Thank you very much for that. The country of Nigeria is still facing an extreme unstable political status right now. The high authorities are doing its best to cope up with the situation, but unfortunately, with all of their efforts, the dominance of the problems are always raging. The corruption in the country is the primary reason why the citizens are making their own selfish acts. The corruption also increased the poverty rate and the unemployment rate of the country, resulting in some of the citizens are involved in the rebel movements. The most notorious rebel group is known as Boko Haram, which is currently spreading violence in the northern part of the Nigeria. In 2018, 83 million of the Nigerians are lived below the poverty line, and another 53 million of them were vulnerable. The number of Nigerians that are live in an extreme poverty line is set to rise by 7.7 million between the year of 2019 and 2024. In conclusion, the population itself of the country is the big factor why it experienced an unstable economy, and the most concern is that the violence and the corruption make the situation of the Nigeria even worse. Thank you very much for tuning in, and this is all for today. And in behalf of my team, this is the JPRB News.